Join me, Harriet Gould, for the Lab Matters podcast to hear fascinating stories every week from the inspiring people behind the science. In this episode of Lab Matters with me, Harriet Gould, Dr. Gillian Thomas shares her transition from the classrooms in Canada to lectures in Leeds. Today, I am joined by Dr. Gillian Thomas, who is a lecturer in sustainable and digital chemistry at the University of Leeds. Gillian is actually from Canada, and we met in Basel on a fun run, believe it or not. That was fun. I mean, it wasn't that fun because it was running, but it was fun meeting. Gillian, it's very nice to see you again, feeling slightly less sweaty. Thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to hearing about your life back in Canada, actually, before we move on to the stuff that you've been doing more recently. So let's go back there first.
Yeah, okay. Great to see you too. Thanks so much for having me. So I've lived in Canada my whole life. Born and raised in Ontario. I went to public school, nothing special. And I actually grew up going to Catholic school as well because my grandmother is quite Catholic. And that worked out fine because in the city that I went to high school in, that was the better school system. So that was good. And I had a teacher when I was in grade 11. So we do grade 1 to 8, and then 9 to 11 is high school. And then 9 to 12 is high school. And then you go to university after that, start your bachelor's. I know it works different everywhere. So I just thought
It
I'd
really
just
does.
My interest in science really started at an early age. I was getting science kits as Christmas presents. I wanted to be an astronomer when I was little. Quickly lost interest in that.
Why did you lose interest in astronomy?
I think chemistry just drew me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in grade 11, sorry, I'll circle back. I had a couple of good teachers in both biology and chemistry, and physics wasn't really coming to me. So, and that's your first kind of foray into the separation of the sciences is in grade 11. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, no, I don't think I'm going to be doing astronomy.
Excellent. So you had these kits. So there was a lot of parental support. Were they in the scientific field as well, or?
My grandfather was a chemist, actually, and then he was also British. He was born and raised in England, moved to Canada to be a chemist, and then eventually moved into computer science. So yeah, I actually didn't know that for a very long time.
So it was a really obvious choice then by the time it came to choosing a course that chemistry was the one.
Kind of. The problem was I had a really good biology teacher, and he made me think that I wanted to do biology because he taught it so well. It was so interesting. So that's how I ended up doing a biochemistry degree for my undergrad, my bachelor's degree, because I thought, well, I could just combine the two together and maybe that will be interesting. And then I started my first year in university, and biology wasn't for me.
I mean, what do you think it was that he did to make the course, the topic, the subject seem so appealing?
He was really good at keeping it topical. He made everything really relevant to our lives and always made sure that was a focus. So we had a whole week or two of lessons on creatine and what that does to your body. And we made yogurt as one of our labs. And that was way more interesting than the stuff I was doing in university, which was counting cells in a microscope and, back to the basics.
Back to the basics. And you, this professor still with us, presumably. Do you remember his name?
I actually don't know. Unfortunately, he's Mr. Turner at St. Teresa in Belleville.
Well done, Mr. Turner, if you are still around. But you've got quite a number of degrees, it seems. from what's on this list here. Um, as you said, biochemistry, the first one, and then yeah, another, and then a pure chemistry one from Carleton University. So how did that transition go from one to the other?
It was interesting. So after I finished my biochem degree, I realized I really don't want to grow cells and be a slave to my cells forever. So I thought, okay, I'm really interested in chemistry. I need to switch. And I was doing my honors project. So we do a bachelor's honors thesis if you're in the honors program. And I was doing it in the chemistry department because Carleton didn't have a biochemistry department per se. It was like the Institute of Biochemistry. So the professors that could supervise your project were spread across biology and chemistry. And so I was in the chemistry department doing a biochemistry focused project. And I, just kind of asked my supervisor if it would be okay if I stayed on for a master's in chemistry, because you have to get a special letter from your supervisor saying, I think she knows enough chemistry to succeed in a chemistry degree. And the master's programs in Canada are very research focused. They're not very classroom focused. So he was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll write you the letter and we'll get you into chemistry. So that really worked out for me. That's why I stayed at Carleton as well, not just the amazing community there.
And so it is an amazing community. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I had a great experience at Carleton. I didn't want to leave ever. Everyone there is just, they just forge this sense of community. Everyone is so kind to each other, always willing to help, like graduate students and professors. I found, anyways, and that community was really what like spurred me to go on to do a PhD. And it's just a very nice environment to come up in and very supportive, I would say.
And tell me about the topic for your PhD.
Oh, yeah. So my topic for my PhD, I think, was analytical techniques for real-time reaction monitoring of palladium catalyzed reactions, something along those lines.
And mass spectrometry, it says at the end of
Yeah.
the page. I mean, were you inspired by the techniques or by the applications, or what really drove the curiosity?
I honestly wasn't really sure what I wanted to do afterwards yet. And so I thought, okay, I need to get some more chemistry knowledge because I just did this biochemistry degree. And then I did my master's in a very analytical, like technique focused area. And so I thought, okay, I need to get more chemistry under my belt here. So I thought, okay, I really want to combine something I know really well with something I don't know as well, which was ended up being catalysis. And mass spectrometry was kind of the common theme I carried from my master's research into my PhD research. And that made the transition a lot easier, I think.
Mm, mm. And it was this element that brought you out of Canada initially, was that right? To Edinburgh,
Yeah, during my PhD,
UK.
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I got a scholarship to spend some time in Edinburgh for a couple of months over the summer with Professor Guy Lloyd Jones. And there I did NMR reaction monitoring. So just using a different technique to
Hmm.
achieve a very similar result, which was, I learned so much while I was there.
Mm. And I mean, did you travel around much? Is that when you sort of first got your got a feel for the UK and became aware of Leeds, or how did that really impact from a personal perspective as well as a professional one?
I loved living in Edinburgh. It was the best. It was so much fun. Everyone around me was so kind. I made a lot of friends. I didn't travel around a lot, to be honest, because I was really enjoying my project and I knew I only had 3 months to work on it. So I was like in the lab at 8 p.m. starting an experiment kind of thing on a Friday.
Mhm.
But I was excited about the science. And so it was motivating. But yeah, I really loved living in Edinburgh. But I hadn't heard of Leeds yet. That came a bit later.
hmm And then, so then you went back to Canada and you completed that part. And were you ever getting any inklings at this point that you were going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to be teaching this, or how were you still feeling at that point?
I honestly had no idea that I was going to be teaching. I think until the end of my second postdoc, I didn't know until I applied for this position. I had
Mhm.
no idea what I wanted to do.
Oh wow. Okay. So
Yeah,
you really were stuck into the into the moment of what you were doing.
yeah, absolutely. And I just kind of went into every position or every next step with a goal of just keeping a relevant, diverse skill set so that no matter what I wanted to do, there were no doors closing and I was keeping myself employable essentially.
Very smart. We should all do that. Let's think along these lines. I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about that second, the actual subject matters, the topics, the research that you were doing for that second PhD back in Canada.
um, yeah, so
Was
after
not the second postdoc, sorry, the
sorry.
second, yeah.
Um, Yeah, so I moved back to Canada, finished my PhD, obviously, then did my first postdoc. I moved across the country to do that first postdoc, and then back across again to do my second postdoc. That distance is equivalent to the distance from like the middle of Canada to the UK, so it wasn't small.
Yeah, because Carlton was the first one and Victoria was the second one.
Yeah, yeah. So it's on the island on the west coast. So it's
Is there a big culture difference or how does it feel?
yes. I wasn't expecting it to be honest, but yeah, it's a huge culture difference. But it's easy to adapt to. They're very easygoing on the West Coast, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah,
So back to the actual,
sorry.
yeah.
So yeah, so that in my second postdoc, I was working with Professor David Leach, and he spent some time before becoming a professor at GSK in the States. So he had a really good handle on what's relevant, what techniques do we need to be teaching our graduate students and postdocs in order for them to be successful in their careers. And he had a position open with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So we were looking at synthesizing new nickel catalysts to make an anti-malarial drug candidate to essentially make it more environmentally friendly and kind of push the field of non-precious metal catalysis a little bit. And he helped me learn other ways of doing high throughput experimentation as well. So we designed the catalysts to be compatible with high throughput experimentation on purpose because that allows you to run hundreds of miniaturized reactions in parallel. So you're not just limited to doing one reaction a day. So if you use, for example, high throughput experimentation in your PhD, you could do as many reactions in a week as people were doing in a year
Wow.
a few years ago. Yeah. So it's I really like that because I am all about efficiency. And it's used in industry, especially in the pharma industry, quite a bit. So I again was trying to keep myself employable, diversify my skill set. I think I described it the other day as collecting the infinity stones of skills, just to
Brilliant.
try to round myself out. Yeah.
Collecting the Infinity Stones. We'll make a note of that. And I'm just curious. I know that people listening will already know this, but I don't. I just want a little bit more information on the non-precious metal catalysis process. What is the alternative, and how does it work?
So right now, okay, we'll start with how it works. So a catalyst, if we're going to go right back to the basics, just to make sure we're all on the same page, it's
Educate me.
okay. It's essentially a substance that will speed up a chemical reaction without being consumed or permanently changed during the process. So it helps the reactant molecules or your two reagents come together and transform into products more efficiently by lowering the energy barrier for the reaction to happen. So you could almost think of it as a helpful coach in a sports game. So the coach doesn't play the game, but they guide the players to make it easier and faster for them to score goals, baskets, etc. So similarly, a catalyst isn't involved directly in getting to, yeah, it doesn't get used up in the reaction, but it helps molecules find each other, essentially.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So
Especially since the great European finals that we've just witnessed. Yes, I understand a good coach helping a team to score goals.
yeah, absolutely. So happy. So in terms of non-precious metal catalysis, it's right now what we're doing is using mostly precious metals for our processes such as making active pharmaceutical ingredients. So about 80% of all active pharmaceutical ingredient syntheses involve palladium in some way. Some also involve platinum, which is another precious metal. But palladium, and we do this because we understand those processes really well. We have them very under control. They don't make too many byproducts that we're not expecting. And so that makes them easy to scale up, and we've honed them essentially.
Hmm.
Non-precious metals are metals with higher crustal abundance. So we can find them more naturally in the Earth's crust and use them instead. So they'll facilitate catalytic reactions as well, but we haven't been using them for as long. And they tend to be more reactive. So they do tend to generate a lot of byproducts that you might not be expecting. They're reactive towards functional groups that maybe you didn't anticipate. Or you don't need, you want those to stay on the molecule and not react. And so we're trying to, I think the field is moving a little bit more towards using non-precious metals. So those are like nickel, iron, your high crustal abundance
Hmm.
metals. Yeah.
But we can still use recycled precious metals because I know that quite a few companies make active calls for mobile phones, defunct mobile phones, so they can extract the precious metals from them.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely can still use recycled. But every time you recycle something, you do like lose a little bit of it, obviously.
Mm.
So not trying to solve the world's problems now. It's more like trying to start thinking about coming to some solutions for that we might need way in the future, if that makes sense.
Understood, understood. So that it sounds like a really quite interesting, and I've sort of cut you off just to get a little bit of a more focus on that particular bit. But back then to that postdoc as a whole in Victoria, you mentioned the name of the lecturer and that you seem to have been actually inundated with brilliant lecturers. Is that right?
Yeah, that was Professor David Leach at University of Victoria.
Mm, mm. And did he plant a seed of what you might do next?
Yeah, he really inspired me because he has so much knowledge. I found him to be very incredibly smart and very good at teaching. And it inspired me to want to be a better teacher. And, I was supervising, as a postdoc, I was supervising some undergraduate students in their research projects and advising on some other projects. And so I really tried to hone those skills while I was there, not just my synthetic skills. And I really enjoyed it. It's such a rewarding experience. And I wasn't totally ready to leave that postdoc experience when I applied for this position, but it was advertised. And I gather now that an advertised lectureship is somewhat more rare in the UK compared to a fellowship. Like getting a fellowship and then moving on from there. So I think that it was just luck. I wasn't sure if it was the right time um, if I was even qualified, to be honest. I thought, okay, well, I haven't applied for any yet. We can try it out, get some feedback, hopefully maybe I'll make it to the interview and get, a sense of what that's like. And then I ended up being successful in the um, I want to say race. That's not the right word.
Okay. You were offered the job. You won, you did win. You did win.
Yeah.
It's all that running we've been doing.
Yeah, I think that's where it came from.
Yeah. Um, and then you had to move all the way back to the UK and really just change your life.
Yeah, yeah, I did. That was crazy because then I was going, double the distance with all of my things forever. Um, that was a long process for packing, getting everything there, getting everything under budget. Um, and it was also tough to find a flat
Of
over
course, yeah.
online, but I ended up with a good one. So that was a plus.
Great. Well done.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been at Leeds University lecturing now?
Just since September, mid-September 2024.
Mhm.
So almost a year, just coming up on a year.
Fresh off the blocks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And how's it? I don't mean you're not gonna say, oh, it's awful, but how's it been?
No, it's actually been so wonderful. Everyone is so supportive and so kind. And I really thrive in those environments, which is why I think I seek them out. I mean,
I think you attract them, Gillian, by the sounds of it.
well, I feel like I sound like a broken record. I totally can understand not every environment is a supportive environment, but I have been lucky enough to find those environments and thrive in them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Supportive environments bring out the best in people, right? So then you can do your best and bring out the best in everyone else. And yeah, it's much the best environment to seek if you're going to seek one, I'd say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be a little bit picky sometimes.
Mm,
I think I lucked out on the first try here.
yeah, well earned, I'd say, after all that studying. What was it?
Thank you.
What was the term again that you used?
Uh, the Infinity Stones of Gathering Skills. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, I think it's more than luck. Um, so now tell me also about your website because you've got a research team.
Hmm.
And the website's Thomas Research Team, your surname and research team. And I've had a look, and they're a great list of publications. And it's in a comparatively short time. I don't know what time frame this has really gone over, but it seems quite quick that all of this work has been produced.
So it's not uncommon for people to put all of their publications forever. So those are from the start of my PhD until now.
Hmm.
Um, I did manage to get quite a few during my PhD, which was amazing. My supervisor was really good at giving me opportunities to be successful in projects and achieve 6 publications before I graduated. And that really set me off on a good foot, a good note to get more.
Because there have been six in the last year.
Yeah, that was also kind of a coincidence because some of them from my first postdoc came out last year. Um,
Okay.
and so it takes time for some of these things to come to fruition. But yeah, Dave was really good also at giving me the opportunities to be involved in projects. So one of them, I think, the glove box just went down for a week, and so I went to a PhD student where I knew they needed a lot of synthesis work done, and I said, okay, can I help you on your project? Do you need anything made? And I ended up just making them a bunch of compounds for that week. And that's how I helped with their project and got on that paper. So there's always opportunities to be had. I mean, I could have taken that week and just said, I have to write or something else, but it felt good to help somebody and also then was a bit self-serving too. So there are a lot of opportunities to be involved in projects and get
Mm.
that many.
Do you have a favorite one?
My favorite paper is definitely my most recent paper that just came out in January, because that is essentially the culmination of my second postdoc project, where we reported 2 new nickel precatalysts that haven't been seen before or used before, and I'm very proud of it, I would say. I worked really hard.
Well done. Yeah. Do you want to, I wonder if you want to say any more about it, or if you've sort of said it all without being able, without having to read it.
Yeah, I almost feel like I have said it, to be
Yeah.
honest. They
The
work really
two,
well
yeah.
in a variety of transformations. Would recommend.
We'll all have a look later. Um,
Yeah.
and then I mean, I'm assuming you were, as you say, slightly used to the concept of tutoring and lecturing because you'd been doing that supervision work before getting this particular job. But just try and describe what were the key differences between being a supervisor and helping on certain projects between and the responsibilities of being a lecturer.
Yeah, it is quite a bit more different than I anticipated. So in Canada, we actually go through our entire graduate program with mandatory teaching responsibilities, which is part of the reason why we have the longer PhD programs. So we do tutorials, labs, etc. And so I thought, okay, well, I have about, 6 years of teaching experience under my belt. I should, be okay. But it's different when you have to come up with the material and you have to figure out how to relate it to them, because I want my students to have kind of the same experience that I had in my grade 11 biology class. Like, even if it's to them the most boring subject ever, I want them to be excited in that room, and maybe they'll be interested in that topic. And so I think tying it to something that will interest them is more of a challenge than I thought initially. But I'm getting there. I'm Practice makes perfect.
Have you got a greatest triumph so far?
Not yet. We're still working on it.
Okay. Well, you'll have to come back and tell us what it is when it happens then. But I mean, I completely agree. I think it's a case in much of everything we learn. If you've got an application, a tangible application that you can play with, experiment, at least understand and relate to, as you say, then it's going to make the whole learning process a lot more interesting and accessible for sure. And it is nice to hear that lots of people recognize that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's particularly a useful thing is in STEM, because those subjects can be just dry, some of them, to be honest. Some topics are just so
And
uninteresting.
completely abstract indeed. Like, okay, so what if that's what the world's made out of?
Yeah, exactly. What is it,
Mm,
Adam? I can't see it. Like,
yeah, exactly. So I just wonder now, this feels a little bit like the dream job, and you seem to be thriving. You've got your research team. What are your hopes for the future of this research team first, and your position at Leeds?
I hope that they are excited about science, to be honest. That's my main hope for them. I just want them to have a great experience working in the team and achieve what their goals are in their project, in their careers. Um, and I want the team, science wise, to hopefully make some strides in the non-precious metal catalysis field. And I think that our combination of high throughput experimentation with online reaction monitoring will help accelerate that a little bit more than without the online reaction monitoring. Because if you can observe the intermediates in your catalytic cycle, you can tune the reaction to, be more selective and get away from those byproducts I was mentioning earlier. If you fully understand what's going on and not just doing the reaction. So I'm hoping that we can make some strides there and improve some syntheses on scale eventually.
Hmm. It sounds like you're moving in the right direction, and I think I I said I was going to ask you what are your hopes for the future of science, but I almost feel like that rolled into what you hope for the future of the team. So I'll drop a curveball and ask the other question that I ask, which is if you could change one thing, which I know is putting you on the spot, but if you could change one thing in the scientific sector, what would it be?
I think diversity. I think we need to continue on our journey of getting more diverse scientists
Hmm.
in these roles, not just in the at undergraduate level for bachelors. We need to support them in moving upwards as well, because it's important and everybody has a different perspective to bring. And it's important that the younger generation also has role models, to look for. So I
Mm.
think I think some in some areas people think, oh well, we're very diverse and we it's check kind of thing. But I don't think that we're quite there yet, and I think that would be the one thing that I would change, and that I hope to participate in that movement and that change.
Interesting. And you're right to say move on as well, because I have seen studies that suggest that certain parties will drop out of science sooner than others, and sometimes it's gender specific, sometimes it isn't, but there definitely is a pattern that
Mhm.
could be tackled.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now that I'm at that next level, I feel like I have more of a voice and a platform and um, more power to make change, essentially. So I'm hoping that I can
Mm,
help the cause.
absolutely.
Hmm.
No doubt there. Look, Gillian, I think lots of people, I feel inspired. I think lots of people feel inspired by you and what you're doing, and be quite enamored by your complete joy and love of it, which is entirely apparent. And I've really loved having you on today. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Did you enjoy that episode of Lab Matters? If you did, please do send it to the people that you think will enjoy it the most.